Hello, this is Pat Cahill from Pat Cahill Metalworks, and today I'm going to make a Keum Boo cuff bracelet from sterling silver. Now, Keum Boo is a Korean technique where they fuse gold foil to the surface of fine silver. And in this case, we're using sterling silver. So what we need to do, and this is the biggest part of this technique, is we need to bring up the fine silver from up to the surface, removing any copper as we do it. So first thing you want to do is fire your blank, your piece of sterling silver. As we are firing it, the copper starts to come up towards the surface along with the fine silver, and that's what turns it a darker color. But as we go on, you'll see how this will change. This is a multi-step process. What you're trying to do is really just bring up fine silver to the surface, and removing any copper impurities that also come up. So are already there. So that's good. Now we're going to quench that and pickle it. And I'll bring it back when we're ready for the next step. Okay, so that's been pickled. And what we're going to do next, this is a nice little tray of soapy water. This is so much easier if you have a sink, access to a sink, but I don't in my studio, so we'll have to do it this way. And we use a nice soft brass brush and soapy water and clean the surface. And what this is actually doing is burnishing the fine silver to the surface. So that's over. Rinse it and dry it off. And we're ready to heat it up again. So let's move over to our station. Let me set that up. Okay, so we're firing it again. And this process is going to be repeated a number of times. And you'll see when you're done, because when you fire it, heat it up, you won't see the oxidized copper coming to the surface. It will all be just fine silver. Let me see if something that would show you better. I can still see dull marks here, or darker areas. So we're going to heat it up. Going to bring up this fine silver. You can already see that it's not looking the same as it did the first time. And now we're going to quench it and pickle it again. And when that's pickled, I'll bring you back. Okay, so we're back. We're going to repeat that process of brushing it with a soft brass brush and soapy water. Again, what this, like I said, what this is doing is it's burnishing the fine silver to the surface. Okay, wash it off. And you want to wash it off good and dry it good. Of course, if you don't, you will start to see sort of water stains when you're heating it up. So from the oxypropane. I'll put that back on my things to see if I can just quickly swap it over for you. Yeah, that works. And so we're fired again. And the thing is, we're just going to repeat this process like 5 times, maybe more. You can't go too many, but you'll know when it's pretty well done, because none of the surface will turn any brown. You're seeing her look oxidized. You're already seeing that happening right now. Typically with sterling silver, this should be a dark brownish color from the copper. And we're already seeing there's a nice sort of milky white. And we want to continue that. So I'm going to do this. Now it's ready for pickling. I'm going to do this another couple times off camera, and then I'm going to bring you back for the last firing, and we'll go from there. I wanted to bring you back for a second just to show you, after pickling you get this sort of white, milky, not very polished look, but when you brass brush it, it really shines it right up. And you can use this as another surface type of texture that you used in almost any type of jewelry. Whatever you want. But hopefully you can see the difference. Let me give me a second to wipe it off. See how much shinier it is? Really does shine it up, and it really is a nice way, a nice surface accent. So I'll bring you back in a second. We'll do our last firing. Okay, we're ready to do our last firing. And what we should see here is that all we get, we don't see any of the copper coming to the surface anymore. The surface should be a nice layer of fine silver. And you see, I can keep heating it and heating it, and you won't see anything but a nice milky white look, which is the same look you see with fine silver. So this is ready to go. We're ready for our next step of applying the gold foil. Okay, so I'm going to get ready for that, and I'll bring you back when I'm ready, show you what we do next. Okay, welcome back. So the tools I use for this next part are burnishers, an agate burnisher, of course the gold foil. And remember, gold foil is much different than gold leaf. It's like maybe 10, maybe 100 times thicker than gold leaf. It's much thicker, and it'll actually last for a long time. Of course, my piece, my cuff blank, and something to heat up the cuff blank. And I use a beehive kiln. They're relatively inexpensive, and they're very useful. I use it for Keum Boo. I use it for enameling. There's other uses I have for it too, but those are the two main ones. A little bit of enameling and Keum Boo. So what I'm going to do now, I have to let this really heat up. You can use hot plates. I haven't had much luck, but if you find a really good one that heats up really high, then just your standard hot plate will work. But let me bring you back when this is up to temperature, and we'll start fusing the gold to the cuff bracelet. Okay, so I don't know if I told you, but I've cut out a lot of little geometric, sort of random geometric patterns with the gold foil, and I'm going to use them to scatter them on randomly, and it'll give a nice effect. So let me put this in the proper position. Bring my Keum over so you guys can see what's going on. And so we just start to put a piece on, and you can tell if it's up to temperature by when you touch it, it should stick, and that's sticking good. So it's sitting down quite nicely, and you can burnish it in there. I do a light burnish at first, and I go over the whole piece once I have many more of the gold pieces of foil on there. So just randomly place your foil. This is 24 karat. Actually, I think it's 23.99 or something weird, but it's basically solid gold. You can't use, I don't think you can use like 14 or something, or even 18 karat. We want the solid gold. So again, just randomly placing them along the cuff. And now I'll start to gently burnishing them on. Move that over to the center, because when you apply pressure, you don't want to poof. That would be near tragic. So we'll get this end. And I'll every so often make sure that your agate burnisher is not too hot. And the best way to cool down that or any of your burnishers is to put it on a nice metal block, and that will suck the heat right out. So burnish that in there, there. And here's where I start to be a little bit harder and really burnish it into the fine silver. I also look for spots that might need a little bit more, like a little piece here, a little piece there. I don't really want it too crowded, but let me go right there. So let me finish up and bring it back for the next step. So after you're done pretty much putting all the gold foil on there, give everything a good burnishing, looking at it carefully, making sure no edges have not been totally fused to the silver. Take your time, but at the same time, remember, it's really hot down there, so be careful. You don't actually have to protect your eyes like you would if you're looking into a kiln, because we're never looking into the flame. That would be in here. We're never looking. So that's a bonus. Okay, so we're done. So the next thing, I just put this on a metal block. And again, it's amazing how quickly it will cool on this. It's probably cool now, but I'm a chicken, so I'll wait a couple more seconds. So we're done now. So now we're at the point where we formed the cuff bracelet and talk about what type of finish we want to put on it. So let me bring you back after I have the camera set up for the hammering the round or oval cuff bracelet. Okay, so we're ready to form the cuff. And I've done this many times before. We're going to start out with the edges. One side and then the other. I'm sure I've mentioned this before. We use a nice raw hide mallet. You don't want to be putting in a hammered effect, or sometimes you do. Okay, so there it is. You can see it's both pretty much even on both sides. And now I'm just going to hand squeeze it around. And there we have it. Our cuff bracelet. One can always fiddle forever on every stage. But it's done. Now, what do we do with the surface of this cuff bracelet? We can oxidize it, and the black on the gold looks fabulous. Really, really nice. It's a beautiful contrast. You could polish it. Problem is, when you polish it, the gold doesn't really stick out as much as it could. It doesn't show off as nice. The other thing you can do is give it a nice sort of a matte finish with a red wheel. I'll show you that, and that's what I'm going to do. And even if I want to oxidize it, I still want to give it a matte finish with the red wheel before I oxidize it. So let me bring you back when we're ready to do that. Okay, so we're ready to give it a matte finish, and this is a red wheel. And I'll show you that when we turn it off. And basically I just want to go along. Now we're not worried about, I'm sure we're taking out some of the gold, but we're not worried about that much, because there's quite a bit of gold here. That's the nice thing about gold foil. This thick on the inside. Okay. I don't know if you can see it, but I'll bring it over to the table just to show you a red wheel. It's basically like a Scotch-Brite pad, if you know what those things are. You've seen them on sponges, stuff like that, and it's they're made to put on the buffer and give you a matte finish. So let me bring you over to see the final result. And there it is. Well, I hope you like it. Thank you for joining me, and I hope I see you again. Goodbye.